I'd like to share a revelation that I've had during my time here. It came to me when I tried to classify your species, and I realized that you're not actually mammals. Every mammal on this planet instinctively develops a natural equilibrium with the surrounding environment, but you humans do not. You move to an area and you multiply, until every natural resource is consumed, and the only way you can survive is to spread to another area. There is another organism on this planet that follows that same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus. Human beings are a disease, a cancer on this planet. You're a plague, and we are the cure.
I'll take the Matrix for 1,000, please.
Mr. Anderson. That's right.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Non mi piace il feeling. Spirito Santo. I think this just might be my masterpiece.
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast. This is Justin.
And I'm Joey.
And on this episode, it's all about second chances, as Joey and I discuss movies that we did not like the first time or were kind of underwhelmed by, and we're going to give them a second look tonight, see maybe they warmed up on us some. And for Joey's pick, we're going to be sitting on the bed with little Fred Savage playing a little bit of Nintendo, got some Cheetos in the background, and we're going to hear all about why Joey is not a fan of the classic 80s meta fairy tale, The Princess Bride. Do I hear a booing in the background? I can't tell. Maybe. Probably not.
Probably.
The Facebook booing coming all the way from here. Plus, we're going to go on a bit of a journey, and we're going to check out two really good films, and then one that I kind of have a beef with. I'm talking about the Three Colors Trilogy, and one of them I just don't like that much, and I'm going to tell you why after we break all of those down.
Yeah, you're going to finally tell me, because I still don't know. I have a guess, but I'm still not 100% sure.
Should be interesting.
So, yeah. All right, and while we're all trying to figure out which one of these Justin doesn't like, if you haven't seen any of these movies and don't want to be spoiled, do skip ahead because we do discuss these in full.
All right. And if you want to be a part of the movie club, just hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. Glad to answer any questions you have on the show. Not like that. We don't have enough to talk about already, but hey, we could be here all night if we have to, right?
That is right. And this week we do have a question from one of my friends. So he asked me a good movie question that we're going to get to here in a bit. I'm pretty excited for it.
All right. So what have you been up to lately, Joey? You've been full-time at work, you said, from last time?
Oh, that is... well, I haven't been full-time in a while. We were doing like 30 hours a week, and then I went down to like 23, but I had a bunch of extra PTO they gave us. And now this week, starting yesterday, I went to 17 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got to file for unemployment this morning before I started before I started watching the last two movies for tonight. I've been playing some video games. I started this new game called Dead Cells, which is really awesome. It's a roguelite, which is really awesome. Still playing Dark Souls 2 because that game is long AF. Been watching some movies. I finally, since the last time we talked, got my two big Arrow orders in from
Oh, very nice.
from England, so I watched a couple of those.
Just remind us
Uh,
what those were.
oh God, it was like 20 movies. Let's see, I got like the Stray Cat Rock Collection, which is Mako Kaiji. I got like Ronin, which was from the last episode, and Bring Me the Head
Right.
of Alfredo Garcia, which was also from that last episode. Um, it was a bunch. It was a ton. I got like a Arrow copy of Boondock Saints, an Arrow copy of Battle Royale.
So do you ever sell movies that you like don't like? Because I mean, you weren't a big fan of Alfredo. Are you gonna keep that one or?
I mean, yeah, it didn't really cost that much, and by the time like I probably found someone to sell it, like it would just. I mean, it's no point.
It's Region B, right?
It is a Region B.
Oh, okay.
We
So
have
that's a little
re-
trickier.
Yeah, and we have a Region B player. I mean, it's still nice. It looks on my shelf, and maybe one day I'll rewatch it and I'll be bigger on it again or something.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
Oh,
I'm trying to think if there was anything else that's really happened. I had a birthday.
oh yeah. Happy belated birthday.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was. If we weren't doing Corona stuff, this would be my last day of vacation before I went back to work, where I went to New Mexico. But
Yeah.
that's all on the back burner. So until later.
Yeah, we were supposed to go on a Disney vacation this summer, and it looks like I'm going to get drugged back to another beach vacation, which, I mean, the beach vacations are nice, but I'm from Charleston, so the beach is like in the back, like, just like 45 minutes away, so it's really nothing special, but, it sounds like we're probably going to go back to Hilton Head again, which we vacationed there a bunch. I mean, it's nice down there, but I'd just rather be doing other stuff on vacation, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, when we say the beach, I mean, in Florence, the beach is Myrtle. I think we don't even call it Myrtle, it's the beach because it's an hour. Like, I can walk out of my house, turn right onto Highway 76, and you're in the beach in an hour and a half, depending on traffic. I mean, like, and I mean, like, on the, like, feet in the water on the beach. So,
Nice.
yeah, and it's like, never understood, like, it was in high school and people like, we're in spring break in Myrtle Beach, and we're like, yeah, whatever, it's no bigs. Like,
Yeah, pretty much.
and like now, like the nickname Dirty Myrtle is like really official because like there are people getting shot and there's needles everywhere. The pavilion's gone. Like Myrtle is trash now. Like like if you go there, it's to go to restaurants. Like going on the beach. There's not arcades really anymore. There's a couple, but like all the like
You got
charm
the Dave and
or-
Buster's. I mean, that's kind of touristy, but
Oh yeah, but I mean I can go to Columbia for Dave and Buster's. Like
okay.
I think they put one in Columbia.
Yeah.
Sounds right. Or I could just go to Charlotte. Like it's further away, but like I was gonna say I won't risk getting shot, but that's not true either. So,
Kind of glad. So we had been on quite a run where we were doing an episode every like week and a half, but I'm kind of glad we gave ourselves a little bit more breathing room. It felt like I could kind of watch a few more movies that I wanted to before I dove into the four we're gonna be talking tonight, and then I spread those out over a couple days. So how'd you feel in cramming the four movies that you did it within a day and a half, right?
Well, I mean, they were all pretty. Like none of them were like 2.5 or 3 hour long movies. So I mean,
Yeah, that makes a
I
big
got
difference.
I mean, I got off yesterday at 6, and so I mean, I was done with these by 10:30 last night or something. The two I watched, and then I got up today and just watched these two and just kind of chilled. I mean, it was fine.
But yeah.
So
And quarantine's still definitely in effect. I know some businesses are going to be starting to open up more. I'm still working from home. Got the kiddos here for the rest of, I'm shoot for all summer, really. They do have a program opening up. I think we're going to put them in, give us some reprieve. But yeah, it's weird. I mean, you're sitting at home working all day and, they're driving you nuts and you get off and you're like, oh, should I be playing with my kids or do I just want to do what I want to do? I mean, I've been with them all day. Does it count? And they play Fortnite like all day long, and my son is like, it literally sounds like he has a megaphone attached to his mouth sometimes with how much he's screaming at the TV over every little Fortnite. I mean, if he gets like second place, he's still freaking out. I'm like, you did pretty good. It was second place. He's like, no, it's not. If it's not your first, your last, Daddy, I guess. So, and then, yeah, we saw the newest movie to go direct to digital, Scooby-Doo. And so, Joey, are you ready for the Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe?
I didn't even know that was going to be a thing, but I've seen some stuff floating around about the animation and how this was the one where people are mad that Matthew Lillard wasn't the voice, and he's been the voice of Scooby-Doo for a long time, like since Casey Kasem passed the torch, and some people are real mad about that. So,
well, it was weird. Like, this was definitely not like a traditional Scooby-Doo movie. I liked the new look they gave the characters, but there was a lot of like extended universe stuff. Like, there's a point where they went to like this prehistoric land and they ran into Captain Caveman, which was a lot of fun, but I was just like, kind of, I mean, if they're going to do a Scooby-Doo reboot, it'd be kind of nice if they just had kind of a traditional mystery to kick things off with instead of making things so over the top. The villain wasn't your typical Scooby-Doo villain. It was, I'd have to look it up. Who was that? It's this Hanna-Barbera racing character, and he has this little dog, Muttley, that makes kind of this funny laughing noise. What is the name of this character? I'm not prepared.
but yeah, it seems like that they wouldn't. We don't need an extended universe and everything like it, but everything wants to be Marvel now. Like, everything's like, we need an extended universe. I mean, look at DC and apparently now Hanna-Barbera. So.
Yeah, and it almost kind of had a superhero vibe because like Scooby and Shaggy get picked up by this like Blue Falcon character, and gosh, Simon Cowell had like the most annoying cameo ever in it. And I mean, I don't really mind like more Hanna-Barbera movies. I'd love to see like a decent Yogi Bear movie and a decent like Jetsons movie and the Flintstones.
I mean, yeah, like all that stuff is. I mean, all that stuff is, good for kids, especially, we grew up watching all of that stuff. When people talk about, the cartoons you watch when you're a kid, and they start bringing up like Dexter's Lab and that kind of stuff, it's like, no, Dexter's Lab, that was
like Cartoon Network.
Yeah, and I was already, I was still a kid, but that isn't what I think of when I was a kid. Like, I think of Jetsons and Flintstones and Yogi Bear and, and then this isn't Hanna-Barbera, like Ninja Turtles, like all that stuff from when I was much younger. So
Dick Dastardly, that's the name of the villain, and he's like your quintessential like mustache twirling victim, which people always say that's like this big cliche, but I don't know, it doesn't really bother me, the old mustache twirling.
I mean, that's how you know they're a bad guy. They twirl their mustache.
Yeah, I guess so. All right, so let's get into this question that you had from a friend of yours, right?
Yeah, so it's my buddy Ian, and so he doesn't have a letterbox or anything, but he does discuss movies with Carl and I pretty regularly. He also he owns a local trading card shop here in Florence, so he's part of the local businesses and stuff. So if you're listening and don't know about Heroes Hideout, when it's safe to do so, check them out because it's all really cool, and he's a really close personal friend of mine. But he asked me. If I was in charge of showing 5 movies to someone who's never watched a movie before, what would I show them and why? And that's kind of a tricky question because
that's a big one.
Because you probably going to vet them and see like what kind of books do they read, or if they watch TV shows, or that kind of stuff. But I kind of just went on it with okay, like if I have no information, I'm just going to show a random person 5 movies. And I asked several other people this question, and one movie continuously showed up in all of them. So I'm very interested to see if you put that same movie in there as well. But so
do you want to go back and forth with this?
Well, we can, or if you just want to read them all, and like I can give all of mine and my reasonings, and you can give all of yours and your reasonings.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead and shoot.
All right. So I did Pulp Fiction, Hidden Fortress, Casablanca, Star Wars, and that's New Hope, but Star Wars, and then Aladdin, the original.
Yeah.
And so Pulp Fiction, because it's going to cover like your witty dialogue and like your hyper violence and super stylized kind of movie. Hidden Fortress, because I felt like maybe some form of foreign movie, something in Kurosawa's accessible Kurosawa. It's not like Seven Samurai or Ran where it's 100 hours long. Plus, it's funny. Mifune is just really great, so I felt that was a good one. Casablanca is just an all-time classic. It's going to also handle your kind of your romancy movie. Star Wars just shows what your imagination can do on film.
And you have you have the inspiration link there because you said Hidden Fortress. So like Hidden Fortress into Star Wars kind of shows how movies can, develop into each other.
Yes, also that. And then Aladdin, because animation is you got to have an animation movie, and Aladdin was my all-time favorite, and I like Robin Williams was great in that movie. There's a lot of good music in it. It just shows, and there's a lot going on in that movie, and it's not like Snow White where it's, oh, the prince came and saved me. Like, there's just a lot going on. I thought it was a really good animated movie to pick on that list. So, and I've got a lot of different answers between this for the people that I've asked, like I said, but I'm interested to see yours to see if that one movie that every single person has put on their list so far is there.
Oh, you know me. I'm Mr. Unconventional, so probably not.
The one person I didn't expect to put it on their list also put it on their list, so I'm interested.
All right. So I kind of thought of this as like the pillars of cinema. Like you got to build somebody up. Yeah, I agree that you definitely have to have an animation on there. And my first thought might have been Fantasia, but then maybe someone new to movies, maybe, they want something with a little more dialogue, some, hold your hand a little bit. And I thought a good bit of animation, which is a little unconventional, would be the Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's stop motion animation. It's not just for kids. Adults will really like this movie as well. Very, very snappy dialogue. So I think that's a good one to start off with. I was then thinking like an adolescent movie. I like the Goonies, the Breakfast Club kind of ran through my mind, but I ended up just skipping adolescence, and I wanted to get something with some more style. So here, this is my action movie, my comedy, a lot of style. I was going to go with Snatch next. That was very influential for me. And then I wanted to get like a big twist movie in there. And so I went to Old Reliable for that, The Sixth Sense. That covers your horror as well. Then I wanted to do something like a big grand epic. So I thought of like a classic, kind of in the realm of like Casablanca, but instead I went with Lawrence of Arabia. And then something just bam out there, sci-fi, like an all-time banger classic, also an epic, 2001 Space Odyssey. So that's kind of what I came up with. You could switch a bunch of those around here or there, but yeah, that's what I went with.
Okay.
Pulp Fiction's a good pick.
You were the first person to not pick Star Wars on their list.
Oh, okay. I guess since I was such a late bloomer to Star Wars, maybe that's the reason why I don't consider that one of my building blocks. Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, some of these, I like when I looked at it, it was like, I mean, remember, I didn't see Hidden Fortress till like 2 years ago. Yeah. It was just more of like, when I went at it, it was like, if I'm introducing people to movies, it's like Star Wars is easily accessible, and it's just oh my god, this is mind blowing. Like I can't speak to 2001 because I haven't seen it. Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of his other movies, and I know that you're a much bigger fan than I am. I just know that's a really long movie, and I know that there isn't a lot of dialogue, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's supposed to be really
definitely quiet and more visual for sure.
But I guess for what I'm, reasons I picked Star Wars, I guess it kind of sets the same thing. Like it is very visual, so I mean, I guess it kind of can have that same thing. Snatch is a very interesting pick. Kind of that same realm as what Pulp Fiction would pick.
Absolutely.
So a lot of same ideas, just different movies. Lawrence of Arabia is another one it's in my list of movies to see, trying to pick up, old classics and such, all-time classic movies. So
it's crazy to like a few May 4th ago, I watched A New Hope, and like the action scenes in there, like they're really good for when it was, but it definitely looks dated. Like how it like cuts between the action real quick to like cover up for like them not having a big budget. But then you go to Empire Strikes Back and it's like none of that's there. It's just a clean, awesome looking sci-fi movie. So it's amazing the jump they made between Star Wars and Empire.
Oh yeah, imagine having a budget once your movie becomes the highest grossing movie of all time. So
Pretty much.
Ian, the guy who asked me this question, so he hit me with his was Schindler's List, Star Wars, Moulin Rouge. He actually hit musicals, and I was like, oh, that's good.
A good
he did
unconventional one.
Spirited Away is what he hit with his.
Good choice of Miyazaki.
Yeah, and then he kind of cheated. He did Seven Samurai / Blanca. He was like either one of those in his last slot. And then the other people I asked, they included horror a little bit more than I did. So like some of the picks was Halloween and then Star Wars.
Exorcist could definitely go in mine.
I wish I had like screen capped them or kept them somewhere so I could give some of the other answers just so there's a broad spectrum. But I forgot
all good movies.
Because I'm not.
Oh yeah, Schindler's List. That crossed my mind as well as like one of like these emotional it's not a war movie, but it's related to a war, a human suffering kind of movie, real emotional. Yeah, it's definitely an awesome one to put in there as well.
Yes, and that is so like I had made a list for.
How long has it been since you've seen that one?
I've never seen that one.
Oh damn. Okay.
Yeah, it's on my list. I already have a list for my countdown to 1400, and that is my 1400. That'll be my 1400 since I didn't mean to, but when I started all my when I did 1000 was in the 50s. And then 11 was in the 16s, 12 was in the 17s, 18s was in the 80s. So yeah, it just kind of happened that way. So,
speaking of all-time classics, I have a kind of a funny story. So I had seen Godfather on VHS in high school, and then our buddy from college, Jake Knight, had it on DVD, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll watch it with you, Jake. I think we started at like 11 o'clock or midnight, but just so happens like his DVD player happened to be on like a black and white setting, so we happened to watch the entire first Godfather in black and white, and I didn't realize I didn't remember from high school that it wasn't supposed to be in black and white, and so it was kind of neat to see that. And then when I rewatched it again and I found more about how prevalent orange is in that movie, I'm like, yeah, definitely not supposed to be in black and white. So kind of a funny story about a classic movie that I didn't watch the right way.
I got you. All right, so I found these other two lists actually.
Oh,
so so one of them is from Carl, one of them is from Rosa. So two of my other good friends. So Rosa went with Fellowship of the Ring, The Exorcist, Titanic, Star Wars, and Office Space. Pretty eclectic grouping there. And then let me scroll back down a little bit further.
Office Space is a quintessential workplace comedy for me.
Oh yeah, like everybody can relate to not wanting to go to work kind of deal, hating their job. And then Carl was Star Wars, Halloween, The Apartment, Up, and Gladiator.
The Apartment, everybody loves that movie, and it's not my favorite Billy Wilder.
Yeah, that's actually one I'm not familiar with. I was real surprised that he didn't put any Kurosawa, but he looked at it as maybe someone isn't want to coming in new, not wanting to necessarily have to read. He tried not to take crazy long movies or anything like that. So which is why he picked Halloween over Shining. If anybody knows him, Shining's his favorite movie. So there's a lot of stuff that went into it. But I mean, Halloween's like a quintessential horror movie, slasher movie kind of deal. So those are a really good question. There's a lot that can go into it. So
only got 5 slots.
Yeah,
and I was scrambling putting mine together.
Yeah, and like when I saw Ian's, I was like, oh man, I left a musical out, and it's like musicals. I feel like music is such a big part. Musicals, and we did an episode like 2 episodes ago about musicals, and there's so many ways to go with that. So,
all right, let's get into what we've been watching lately with the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right. So, my picks are, I have the great, the ugly, and the horny.
All right, I've got the foxy, the absurd, and the brutal.
I think I know what your foxy pick is, because I was looking at that on your letterbox for a couple days. So let's hear about with Foxy Brown, right?
Yeah, it is Foxy Brown. So that is actually one of the movies I picked up off of Arrow. I had been wanting to see pretty much a lot of the Pam Grier, the movies that got her the Jackie Brown role for quite some time. Because anybody who knows me, anything that has inspired Quentin, I've made it my mission, especially the last few years, to watch those. So
Gotta watch The Wild Bunch now.
Yeah, I do need to watch The Wild Bunch. So the movie was so much better than I expected it to be. In all honesty, I mean, like, I'm sure you read my review.
How old is it?
I
didn't dig too much into it. Is that a 70s movie?
Yeah, it's like 1970. Movie? Yeah, it's a blaxploitation movie. It's like 1974, but like it had witty comedy for the most part, or like witty dialogue. It was pretty funny in spots, but it's a some of the dialogue is you can tell is dated, but I mean, Jesus Christ, it's like 50 years old ish now.
Yeah,
like,
it's amazing how things date now. In terms of like, I mean, the 80s is what, 30 years ago now?
I guess it's 40 years old because it's like 10 years older than me and us. So I guess it's 40 years old. But, yeah, and it just, Pam Grier looked amazing. She kicked a lot of ass, and we know I'm all about chicks that kick ass. She didn't take any shit. There was surprise Sid Haig in the movie. So yeah, it was just, I mean, it's obviously not a cinematic masterpiece, but it wasn't what I bought that movie to be. So
there you go.
So all right, let's go on. Let's get the horny out of the way.
I had a feeling you were going to go there. All right, I had to pull up the title there. So yeah, Joey had heard that I watched one of his favorite movies from last year, right?
Which? Oh, yes, yeah. It was pretty high up there last year.
Okay, I think you 5-starred it. So I watched good old Alfonso Cuarón's Yo Tu Mama Tambien, which is in the Criteria collection. This is like the horniest movie I've ever seen in my life. So it's a pretty good coming of age story about these two, I guess they're high school guys in Mexico, and like right off the bat, like they chase their girlfriends up into a room and they're just going away, humping them like dogs. And then they have this little funny pillow talk where they're like, oh, no, you're not going to sleep with any Italians or any Russians or any Englishmen, just me or whatever. And then like, meantime, he's thinking like, yeah, I'm going to try to get with as many chicks as possible. Early in this movie, the image I'm never going to be able to get out of my brain is these two guys, and they're like swimming, and then they like lay on a diving board, and they're like yelling out like this just stuff that turns them on, and they're whacking off together on these diving boards. And I'm just like, oh, okay, these guys are really, really close. I mean, it's a Cuarón movie, so it's beautiful, beautiful cinematography, very, very poetic. A lot of people kind of bash this movie because of the voiceover narration, and if you know me, I have like no problem whatsoever with voiceover. I like a lot of like the Nick Cage movies that have voiceover. I just adore those. I like to hear what a character is thinking. Hearing exposition, I mean, that's never been a turnoff for me for some reason. Yeah, we're going to get a lot more into what we don't like about movies, and voiceover is not one of them. I think you wanted to, I think you read my review and you had a counterpoint to something I said. I only had two big beefs with this movie, which was they pull up to the beach or what happens is they get lost. The two got so what happens in the movie is they go to this wedding and they meet this girl, and they're like, hey, you should go to the beach with us. Yeah, it'd be fun, whatever. And what happens is her husband, and she finds out that he had an affair. And so she's like, yeah, I'll go with you guys to the beach. And there's a little bit of fooling around that happens between both the guys and her. And it's an interesting sex dynamic because she's like a much older woman, very experienced, but these guys are very inexperienced. And she's kind of has like the dominant role there. And then they get very jealous of each other. Anyways, they have their squabble. She's like, all right, you guys need to listen to me if we're going to move along. And they do. And then they get lost, and then they just pull off on the side road. And in the morning, they're all of a sudden where they're supposed to be. Pretty convenient. There's a nice element there of, like, they run into these people on the beach, and they take them off for, like, this cruise around, like, the bay. And you hear over in the voice over narration that, like, these people's way of life will, like, completely change in the near future. And it's all a movie all about, like, living for the day and, you know, not being restrictive with, like, your body. So what did you want to talk about, Joey?
Well, you talked about in your review in the big threesome scene.
Yeah.
Was kind of the apex of the movie, because the two boys who are very close, and you talked about how they had the scene where they masturbated together throughout, and then they both had slept with the woman, and then they have the threesome, and then in the threesome they kiss each other, and then it's very weird between them, and that what causes them to not be friends, and then it goes into the future, and they're in the coffee shop, and it's very awkward, and they find out that the girl had died from cancer or something, and it's what causes basically their friendship to have dissolved. They also had found out that they had slept with each other's girlfriends, I believe, if my memory serves.
At least they claim to. Like, that didn't happen until, like, one said something, and he only said it because he was jealous that the one was sleeping with the girl. So that you could take that or leave that.
Well, yes, but it was like a claim that they had slept with each other's girlfriends, or one had slept with the other one's girlfriends or something. But yes, which high school boys sleeping with their friends' girlfriends, that's not out of the realm of possibility. So anywho, my issue is that you did not seem to think that it made sense for these two boys to have kissed each other in the threesome.
It just seemed like it kind of came out of nowhere, and I was just like, really? I mean, I audibly said really. Like, I just didn't see, like, I mean, like, the only lead up to, the only foreshadowing to it was like, guys, the girls like fussing at them is just like, for now on, if you guys are going to sleep with anybody, it's going to be with each other. And so I guess that was foreshadowing to this moment. It's just like, I don't know. There was like, if there would have been like some kind of awkward, like, hand like brushing moment maybe, but I thought it kind of came out of nowhere.
I mean, okay, so I don't remember thinking that it was like out of nowhere or all that weird. I mean, it has been probably a year-ish since I've seen that movie, so I may not remember everything quite properly, but I mean, it is two teenage boys in that time period when they're questioning things. They're in a sexual situation with a much older woman who's being demanding, and you're in a threesome. Maybe everything's flowing on. They may have thought something about each other. I mean, obviously they were comfortable being naked around each other, because of what we saw at the beginning of the movie. Yeah. They kissed each other, and then it was like, oh shit, this is really weird, and it just kind of ruined everything. I mean, the whole trip kind of ruined everything.
Yeah, so, I didn't really think about the fact that I guess their relationship kind of does dissolve after this. I didn't really think much of that at that point.
But yeah, that was all. Also, just kind of wanted. I love this movie, and I just wanted. I seen you had watched it, and I wanted to talk to you about it. That was really it. I mean,
it was really entertaining. Those few minor like kind of conveniences, but otherwise very stylistic. And like I said, if you want a sexy movie, this is not a bad pick.
Yeah, I mean, this I had messaged you about it. Like, I watched it not that long after I watched Blue for the only time still at this point, and I felt it had a lot of the same beats. Two young people coming into their sexuality and a lot of sex, and then figuring out who they are and being kind of shitty people, but not intentionally, but just figuring out who they were, and a lot of shitty things happening along the way as they figure out who they are, kind of thing. And
I guess I just kind of I frame Blue in that whole like relationship kind of movie to where, that movie was much more about the development of a relationship where I think Yo Mama Tumbien was more about more free-spirited sexuality. But, similar.
Well, yes. I mean, Blue does have an overarching of the relationship, but you still have, she's exploring her sexuality in that same vein. Remember, I'm not gay,
right?
But she's exploring that side of herself, and they're exploring themselves, and they're young, and
all
that kind of stuff.
I believe in that movie, so.
Yeah, and there's not so much of that in Ep3 Mama, but it's still that just the young sexual exploration and finding yourself and growing kind of situation. I mean, there's some differences, but I felt there was a lot of similarities. So yeah. I like both of them. So
very cool. Let's hear about your absurd.
My absurd. That was Miike's Dead or Alive.
Okay. Never heard of this one.
Okay, so it's the Dead or Alive trilogy. So it's Dead or Alive, The Birds, and I don't remember what the third one's called yet. Which I've only watched the first one so far. I got to get back to watching the other two. But for the most part, so the first 6 minutes is this crazy, violent, visual drug sex montage for the first 6 minutes. Apparently, it's well noted among people, movie people, but it's. After that, it kind of turns into just a normal gangster cop, or I guess Yakuza cop drama style movie. There's some violence, and the cop's trying to catch the bad guy, and the cop's the head honcho cop, the Yakuza member, he's the main, he's the badass, no one messes with him kind of thing. It's a pretty good movie. And then you get to this one scene, and I'm like, this one thing's gonna happen. And there's a car bomb meant for the cop, blows up the cop's wife, blows up his kid. Yeah. And then you get to the showdown at the end of the movie between the cop and the gangster. And so the cop starts driving a car, just gunning it towards the bad guy, and they shoot a rocket, or no, they throw a grenade, and it explodes up, and it comes straight down and kills one of the bad guys. He gets out. He's got a knife just lodged in his gut. He kills off one of the other henchmen, and so it's just him and the bad guy, the main bad guy. He rips his arm off at the shoulder socket. You can see the socket and everything. And then they just pull out 9mm and shoot each other multiple times.
What country was this from?
This was from Japan.
Okay. So is it like a splatter movie, or?
Not normally, no. It basically, the last 5 minutes goes anime. It just goes full anime.
Okay.
Yeah, it's from Miike, the same guy who did Ichi the Killer and Audition.
Okay.
Yeah. And so now they've shot each other a whole bunch, showing that they can't be killed. And the cop, just like in a video game, out of nowhere pulls a rocket launcher off his back. It's not strapped to his back. It literally just looks like he pulls it off his back out of a video game. And then the villain makes what looks kind of like a spirit bomb or something, a bomb out of energy. And they shoot each other, and Japan explodes in the movie, and it's fucking absurd. It's just absurd.
Nice.
Yeah. So the next two can't be related at all because, Japan doesn't exist in that movie, or the world. I'm not really sure.
Fascinating.
Yeah. All right. What you got for ugly, my friend?
All right. So, for Mother's Day, my wife's a big fan of The Greatest Showman, so we had a good time watching that again, and it was pretty early in the night. We were still kind of doing stuff, and that movie was over, and I'm like, hey, let's check Cats out. Why the hell not? And, yeah, I gave this 1.5 stars because this movie really, really shouldn't exist. I really need to see, the play version of it, because that's essentially what we got in this movie, and It's just constant singing, and you can barely tell what they're talking about because they're these gosh, I forget, they're these certain kind of cats. I forget. I feel bad for the actors because there's a lot of good actors in this, and it seems like they're doing their hardest job. And there's a little bit of false marketing. I thought what's her face, pop singer, Taylor Swift. I thought she was gonna be like a huge part of this movie, but no, she just shows up for one song, and she basically sings the bad guy song for him. And the bad guy is played by, gosh, I am awful with actors' names tonight. It's the guy that they want to get to play the new Bond.
Idris Elba?
Yeah, Idris Elba. Yeah, he's really good as the villain.
I mean, go figure. He's a good actor.
And yeah, everything you've heard about the CGI on this movie is absolutely true. Like, it didn't put me off much during the trailer for some reason, but then when I saw it in like full effect in the movie itself, it just doesn't work. It's like the uncanny valley all over the place when it comes to these people's faces. And in terms of perspective, like there'd be scenes where like the cats look like they're the size of cats. And then there's scenes where they look like the size of humans. And then there's scenes where they look like the size of mice. And so they really couldn't figure out what the hell size the damn cats were supposed to be. Some other talented people in this movie included Judi Dench. Is that her name?
Dame Judi Dench. M?
Yeah, I already said Idris Elba. Ian McKellen's in this, and he was a little weird. I wasn't into his character much. And yeah, it's just song after song, and I didn't know what they were talking about. That one late night host guy is in it. I am
Fallon?
No, not Fallon. It's the one on the Late Late Show on CBS.
Oh yeah, James Corden.
Yeah, that's it. And also, she's from the Fat Amy girl.
Oh yeah, from Pitch Perfect. Rebel Wilson.
Rebel Wilson. So usually I'm a Rebel Wilson defender, but gosh, she was just embarrassingly awful in this movie as she's like rolling around in this cat CGI, like appearing to be naked. Like most of the people that really shouldn't look naked in movies, like they put coats on or clothes on, but no. Yeah, she kind of looked like a naked cat in this, rolling around on the floor, and it was pretty darn awkward. Gosh, yeah, cats. I finally, I think it's the song Memories is like the main song from that. And so whenever that came in, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that song. But yeah, the rest of the songs, it just didn't stick at all. Jennifer Hudson's in it. She has, a really beautiful voice. And so, enjoyed her singing in it. And the whole thing is like this contest to be like the main cat. And then like, they pick like the one that's had this like unfortunate life, and she just kind of floats off in a balloon in the end, and I'm not really sure how that helped her out at all. So Cats, it's as much of a train wreck as you have heard it is from good old Tom Hooper, which I still need to see the Les Mis musical he did. That is one of the infamous movies that I started and have not finished, so I definitely need to get back to that. So yeah, Cats, it's bad. I don't normally watch bad movies, but I watch Cats. It's bad.
Yeah. I've seen some movies that most people don't give like 3 stars, and you're like 3 stars, and I'm like, what? So yeah, I saw you gave something 1.5. I was like, bruh.
Yeah, it's like I didn't like it, and yeah, the 1-star area is when I think a movie just should not exist at all. And there's like tons and the dancers are very talented, but some like the cut scenes are just like dancing, getting ready for the next musical number, and something that's musical dancing around should probably just stay on the stage.
Hey, and just think, that was after they recut the CGI and re-released it in the theaters, because remember when it first came out, it was even worse.
That's what I heard. I got a bunch of Letterboxd comments saying, yeah, people were unfortunately saw it opening night and it was even worse. I don't see how that's possible, but gotta take their word for it. Hopefully I'll remember some actors' names moving forward. Kind of hard to talk about movies without actors' names.
Yeah, all right, in my life sometimes.
All right, The Brutal for you.
the brutal, as in the brutal tutelage of Pai Mei. It's the
Okay.
Clan of the White Lotus.
Okay.
Which
I
is a
know.
movie that's.
I think the only thing I know about this is the kind of homage from Kill Bill.
Yes, this is a movie with Gordon Liu, who is the gentleman who played Pai Mei in Kill Bill Volume 2.
Mm-hmm.
He was also in Kill Bill 1 as Johnny Mo. But in this movie, he's not Pai Mei. He's fighting Pai Mei. And Pai Mei is pretty much just lifted straight from this movie into Kill Bill. He is a cocky, arrogant, badass dude that it took like Gordon Liu. So at the beginning of the movie, Gordon Liu and his brother kill White Brow, which is Pai Mei, but they kill his junior. And then they go to jail and they get out of jail and they come back and they have to fight the real Pai Mei and his whole White Lotus clan. And they train. They escape with their life after an encounter, and he trains, can't beat him. Trains again, learns another new style, can't beat him. Trains again, and finally, in the fourth time, he finally can defeat him. But there's some crazy fight scenes. So it was really good. It was when I did my unboxing for the Kill Bill box set that I got recently, that German box set.
Yeah.
This was the other movie that came with it that I got from Diabolic DVD. So, I mean, it is a really, really good Blu-ray release. Some good content in it, good slipcover as well. So it is a good movie. It's also on Prime that I noticed when we were looking at some other kung fu movies and stuff to watch, because I'm really into those, and I'm getting ready to get that box set in July of one Mr. Bruce Lee.
Yeah,
so,
that's pretty swift. Yeah, we get an excuse to see all the Bruce Lee movies now with Criterion releasing that box set. That's pretty nice. Pretty nice.
So yeah, that's definitely one I recommend.
Was it in Japanese or was it forced dubbed, the version you saw?
Actually, this one was in Chinese.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Remember, Pai Mei is Cantonese.
Oh, okay.
Or Mandarin, whatever. He's Chinese. Yeah, he's a Chinese character. Yeah. No, you're fine. No bigs. But it was in foreign. It was I believe it was in Cantonese, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So, and then it was really good. I mean, I believe it has a dubbed option. If you wanted to, do like a lot of people did and watch them dubbed back in the day, but I'm definitely a sub guy, as we've discussed many times in the last year plus.
Indeed, we have.
Yes. So.
All right.
Alrighty. So you got a great. What is your great one?
Okay, I could have slotted several things into this. I did watch Martin Scorsese's The Departed lately, but I'm gonna have to go with Tom Hardy and Locke. And have you heard about this movie?
No, this is the one I'm not familiar with.
Oh god, it's just so good. So it's the truest definition of a gimmick movie. The whole movie is Tom Hardy's character sits down in a car. He starts driving down this highway in England, and he's talking to people on the phone the whole time. And oh my goodness, this movie was so riveting. I mean, just phone call after phone call after phone call. And it's just beautifully filmed. I think they did it a few times where they filmed it all the way through with him having all these conversations, and they have all these really cool the lights all around him of the night on the highway. But yeah, it's his performance that really sells it. And so the basic gist of the story is he is a very, very proud in the construction field, and he's in charge of making sure the concrete gets poured just right for this mega building that's about to go up. And he is very proud of his work. He has everything lined up and just ready to go with this project, but he has to be there for this woman who he happened to sleep with one night, kind of a one-night stand, and he got pregnant. And so he has to break this news to his wife. And throughout the movie, we hear her go through the stages of denial and hate or hurt and emotion. And he's also like his project at work is falling apart, and that doesn't go good for him. And then you have this girl he barely knows calling him, freaking out about issues going along with the baby. And it's so well written that you really get a sense of who all these people are, and you don't even see their faces. It was a blast to look on IMDb afterwards and actually see who played these characters and actually get a sense of what they actually look like, because all we do is you see Tom Hardy's character the whole time. And what really, really touched me is what you get from the movie is that Tom Hardy is this very, very put together guy who likes things to be lined up right into place and see plans executed exactly how he wants them to go. And at the very end of the night, like his sons, like it was supposed to be like this big soccer match, and they got some sausages, and the mom even wore like this special shirt or whatever for this big match. And Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man character, Tom Holland, I believe, plays the son at the end. And basically he's just like, Dad, don't worry about it. You're going to come home. We're going to, we got the game on DVR. We're going to watch it again. We're going to pretend like we never watched it. Mom's going to wear the shirt. We're going to have the sausages. And you hear from him exactly how Tom Hardy's character was the whole time. And so you see like he's passing off like his personality to his son. And I just thought that was so awesome to see put on the screen. So Locke was, it's a gimmick movie. It's a guy sitting there talking in a car, but it's so riveting as well.
Also, just very nothing to do with that movie per se, but that Venom and Spider-Man are father and son.
There you go. I don't know why that slipped my mind. Ryan Reynolds, I think he's in like a coffin movie. So now I'm kind of curious to see the Ryan Reynolds coffin movie, or Buried Alive or something. Oy. Have you ever seen Be Kind Rewind?
I haven't. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Okay, yeah, I just recently saw that just a few nights ago. Jack Black is at his absolute craziness. I also watched Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. That could have also been a great movie. A lot of Criterion talk in that. All right, let's get focused and let's talk about. But we're going to talk about some movies. We're going to talk about we've gone through a lot of movies on this show that we just don't like, and we try to, do the best job of explaining why we don't like them. So now let's do a little bit of a breakdown, kind of a retrospective of movies we don't like, because that's tonight's theme is movies that we didn't like, got very underwhelmed by, but we're going to give them a second chance. So, you want to kick us off, Joey? This is okay, you picked this topic, so yeah, I'll let you have it.
Yeah, I picked this topic. It was your category, but I picked it.
Very nice.
So I picked a movie that most people our age, and we're in our middle 30s. I just turned, at the time we're recording this, I turned 35 2 days ago. And if you're not 35 yet, I guess you will be very soon. So everybody that's very close to our age loves this movie. I grew up my whole life hearing about how great this movie was, and I don't remember when I saw it the first time, but I was definitely past the age that everybody else had seen it. I'm pretty sure I didn't see it until I was in my teens, or maybe even in my early 20s, and that's part of the reason I think I was very underwhelmed by this movie, because I just was, this movie's so great, it's the best thing since sliced bread, blah 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 blah, you're gonna love it, blah 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 blah. And that's The Princess Bride.
Okay. But first you're going to talk about some kind of your an overview of some of the movies that just don't wet your whistle.
Yeah, there's I don't have a general, I guess I don't have a genre that I dislike. The one genre that I really dislike probably the most is horror comedy. And even within that, I love The Babysitter. I love Zombieland, Zombieland 2. So, there are definitely exceptions to that. I definitely have some movies that are probably surprise some people that I don't like. I wrote a few down. There Will Be Blood, which I think we've talked about before. Didn't really do anything for me, because I remember I watched that, and that was actually one that I thought about picking in this same slot. It was between that and No Country, and this. but I figured this is the one that's been the longest since I had seen it.
Okay.
So, and then this is the next big one that everyone, especially our age, also just loves and thinks is the greatest thing, and that's Independence Day.
Oh,
Yeah, see, look, see.
that's
I
a
think
guilty
that's
pleasure from me.
well. First of all, I don't.
Don't shoot that green shit at me.
I think guilty pleasures. One, I don't think we should have any guilty pleasures. Like if I love a movie, I just admit it, like straight
Okay.
up, or a song or whatever. Like I don't really care. Um, like yeah. So, but I think Independence Day is crazy overrated. I don't. Everyone thinks it's so freaking great. I also like you talk about things being unbelievable. Like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air saving the world from aliens is fucking unbelievable as shit to me. So, and that's why I never saw Hancock. I can't do it. Like, just me personally. And then the other one was Jurassic World 2, not the
Jeff
first
Goldblum,
Jurassic.
he was there to help him out, kind of, let him know they got to put the virus in there.
Jeff Goldblum. Oh,
We need to run.
so
We need to
humanity
go faster.
humanity will find a way, right? Or not humanity, but it will find a way. Something Jurassic Park 1, something The Fly, something. He sells cell phones and the Friends. And then the other one was Jurassic World 2, not the first Jurassic World. That movie I liked a lot, but the second Jurassic World, where the fucking Velociraptor climbs up the wall like he's Spider-Man and then comes down and like pops in the room and is like, "Look, I'm a Velociraptor," and the fucking kid's also a clone, and I'm like, oh, the movie was so disappointing.
I had fun with it. I watched it with a bunch of kids who were having a ball, so maybe that. I don't know. I guess I have to give it another look.
I mean, like I said, I love Jurassic Park 1. I watched that movie
Oh yeah,
in theaters
that's
as a
absolute
young
classic.
child.
Yeah.
Yes, and I like Jurassic World. Jurassic World 2, and nah. So, like I said, I think there's movies in like every genre that I like, and I can't really think of a genre outside of maybe horror comedy, because that's just two things to me that usually don't mesh. But like I also I don't think that Zombieland is a horror movie just because it has zombies in it, because I don't find anything about those movies horror. Like,
Well, they're essentially monsters.
well, yes, I mean, but yeah, I get it. They're horror because they have zombies in them. But like if something's supposed to be horrifying, there's nothing in those that are like scary. At least with like The Babysitter, like it's a horror comedy, but they're like there's parts of that movie that are actually trying to be scary. Like I don't really find anything super intending to be scary in Zombieland, but that's neither here nor there. That's just me, but I understand that I'm weird in thinking that way, so whatever.
All right, so this is kind of a funny topic for me because I generally don't go into movies like wanting to dislike them. I don't really ever hate watch movies. The rare occasions, I mean, I have seen The Room. Like I said, I have seen Cats, but generally I'm looking to get or like discover a new like powerful movie experience, or maybe just a good time, or maybe some nostalgic chills. So yeah, barely ever go into movies like looking to hate them. So this is kind of a funny topic, but yeah, there's some movies I'm just watching and I'm just not digging, and I found that a lot to be with like melodramas. Like the best case I can think of is this movie called Harry Carey, which people just say is this amazing all-time banger samurai movie, but it's just so melodramatic with how the people are talking about how these rulers didn't have any compassion for this warrior and how terrible they are, and I was just like, oh, okay. And I get really annoyed by like helpless or lazy characters. Like my son is a big fan of like the Diary of the Wimpy Kid 2 movie, Roderick Rules, and in that movie they actually break down like the perfect ways to be a slacker, which drives me absolutely crazy because I catch my son doing these things all the time. I also like because I'm really big into the Criterion Collection, and there are these really, really slow, subtle movies that like I get what they're going for with their themes, but just it just takes so long to get there, and it's kind of a chore to watch. I kind of cite Tokyo Story. Like, I get that's all about like being respectful to the elderly because they're not going to be around forever, but it just takes so long to get there, and it's just so, and like people love to say they love humanistic movies because they're so realistic, and I've talked about on the show before where, you know, like if somebody's acting like not like realistic, it doesn't really bother me because I'm watching a movie. I definitely have that separation there. So there's a few movies off the top of my head. There's usually always one movie a year that people are just like, oh, it's so cool, it's so fun, and I'm just like, huh? Like, for example, I watched Baby Driver a few years ago, and I just thought him being like this suave, too cool for school guy was just like super obnoxious to me for some reason. I'm generally not a fan of like love triangles in movies. When things are like super dumb or convoluted, like typically I don't look for plot holes, but if like the plot holes are beating me in the head, then for me it's getting pretty bad. Movies that are just darn made poorly, like I can't stand Jurassic Park 3 because it's basically like this B movie with how bad the CGI is in that movie, especially in the beginning. Throughout like my Letterboxd experiencing kind of new international acclaimed cinema, I came to All That Jazz, which what I was really expecting to like, but the main character in that, I just thought was the biggest asshole in the whole world, and I was just like hate watching that because I just was not liking him at all. Other fans, movies I'm not a fan of, like the first time I saw The Deer Hunter, I thought it was all right, but then I watched it again, and while it's a very beautiful movie, I think the script is just way too bloated and just too convoluted for me. A recent movie I didn't like, Pretty in Pink. Like I liked it at first, but then like halfway through, like the whole dynamic of like what was going on with her character, just like they stopped paying attention to it and it just fell apart, and I wasn't a fan of that. And then the 1/2-star film I have on Letterboxd is from my boy Lars Van Trier, and that's The Idiots. And that movie is just the most, doesn't need to exist, disgusting, disrespectful, rude, atrocious movie I've ever seen in my life. But on the bright side, there's movies that I didn't like the first time that I warmed up to. We mentioned Matrix off the top of the show. And while I really don't like the Love Conquers All deal at the end of that movie, because I love him, he cannot die. I know Kung Fu. And he goes and come Superman. Really, that kind of ruined the movie for me the first time I saw it. But in watching it again, like last year, I think, the movie is so good with everything other than that, like I have to give that part a pass. And then The Thin Red Line, I just didn't know what my main man, Terrence Malick, was all about when I saw that, expecting to see, you know, a next version of Saving Private Ryan, and it's not that, and it's a beautiful poetic war movie. And yeah, Terrence Malick. You got to get into him eventually. But he's really, he if long nature shots bother you, then Terrence Malick, it'll be interesting whenever you see some of his stuff.
Well, it's not so much I like nature shots. I mean, I love Kurosawa. I just watched John Ford movie, but if they're long and they linger and they don't if they're just long nature shots to like, I want to make my movie longer for no fucking reason, then that bothers me, because it's like, just get along with the movie instead of just dragging this out. Because like you're talking about movies that are long, somewhere in here that, you know, movies that are very slow. Yeah, well, if you have a long nature shot that does nothing, like one of them, okay, there's some nature porn, cool, but if you put tons and tons of them, that makes the movie slow, and it does absolutely fucking nothing. Mm-hmm. And like I'm not about that life. So if you do it in it, and if you use it to actually use that backdrop to set up something, and you're panning to show scope of what's going on, or, you know, something like that, like John Ford did, which is, you know, someone that Kurosawa looked up to, and then Kurosawa did it, then, you know, that's actually doing something with those long shots in your cinematography, and it's like, oh, cool, it actually does something and adds something to the movie, and that's fine.
Like Malick is more like, he shows things very transcendentally. It's very like, you know, what's the meaning of life? And he's like, you know, gazing off into a sunset kind of thing. So that's Malick. I want to bring up We saw his Tarkovsky. Yeah, we saw Ivan's Childhood a few films ago. And yeah, Ivan's Childhood is a really slow film, but just how amazing the cinematography is throughout, at least for me, really kept me engaged. And he has some other really, really slow films. But as long as like you're dazzling me with like these amazing shots, like at least I have that to grip onto. But then you have a movie like Tokyo Story where it's really just like these people talking in a room about how they feel and how they don't have time for their grandparents, and it goes on and on and on, and I get it, and let's move on. So there you
go. So when it comes to the movies that are cool, i.e. Baby Driver or like
Knives
Bad
Out.
Times at El Royale or something
yeah.
I haven't seen Knives Out, so I can't. But the movies that are like the cool movies, do you not like them because they're cool? Like, are you just hating because they're like the cool thing? Cause like Pulp Fiction is a movie that's too cool, brother, and like you love that movie. Like, now I'm not saying Baby Driver is as good as Pulp Fiction. Like, I'll pump the brakes before someone comes for my head. I'm just there's a correlation there that I would like to point out.
Yeah. I know one of the things that got me about Baby Driver is I saw Drive not too long before that, and I thought Drive is just such a better like car chase movie that the whole time I was just comparing it to that. And so that was kind of a turn off, and then I just didn't like the main character and his whole like, listen to music and then Bad Times at the, it's all case by case. Bad Times at the Old Royale, like I was enjoying it, and then I was just like, this is very Tarantino-y, okay. And then by the end I was just like, nah. So I'd have to watch that again to get more of in detail about what turned me off about it. And shoot, maybe I might enjoy it the next time. I enjoyed Cabin in the Woods, so.
Well, I need to actually rewatch Drive because I remember liking Drive, but like everyone, I know tons of people who are like, oh, it's like the best Hollywood movie, to come out in a very long time, or blah blah blah, different things of that nature. But I just remember it was a lot different than like Baby Driver. I remember Baby Driver having a lot more action than Drive, but it's been a long time. I felt
do
like
remember liking Jamie Foxx in Baby Driver. I thought towards the end of Baby Driver it was starting to grab my attention more, but yeah, I just could care less about the main character.
And yeah, me and you have been back and forth on Bad Times at El Royale, but I think that's a better Tarantino movie than Tarantino's made in a long time. And you know how much I love QT, so just my opinion. So anywho,
interesting. Wow. All right, so Joey, I'll let you. You kind of essentially teed up your early feelings on Princess Bride, which is Criterion Spy number 948. But yeah, you want to let's dig into this movie. What's it about? And yeah, let's get into Princess Bride.
So I feel like most everybody has probably seen Princess Bride in some form or fashion. But yeah, so like I said earlier, everybody just made it up to be this great movie, and I probably watched it at an age where like a romantic movie just wasn't the thing for me, and I was just like, this is dumb kind of thing. And so also hearing my whole life, I am the whole line of I am Ignio Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die. That whole thing, inconceivable. Yeah. On the rewatch, I really didn't remember much past the initial fight scene between the Dread Pirate Roberts and Montana. I remember bits and pieces, like where they stopped the grandfather would stop and reading the book, and the story would stop and kind of go back to them. But I didn't remember a ton of it outside of that. I guess had blanked a lot of it out. But essentially, the story is Fred Savage is homesick, and his grandfather comes over to read him the book, and it's The Princess Bride, and he's a little boy, so he doesn't like all the romance, and he thinks the story's dumb. He just wants sports. He's like obsessed with like Frank Thomas, and just all, or not Frank Thomas. I'm sorry, the refrigerator. So the Bears and the White Sox.
Chicago.
And
What's up with
Cubs,
what's up with the '80s and Chicago movies?
Yeah. And so the grandpa starts reading his books, and that
Played
so
by Columbo. Played by Columbo.
Oh, okay. There you go. So that bitch Jenny, I mean Robin Wright Penn.
Peter Falk, I'm sorry. Yeah. He plays iconic role as Columbo, yeah. Peter Falk.
Yeah, Peter Falk. So Jenny, I mean Buttercup, is the princess, and Carrie.
Okay.
Carrie
What's your
Ellis.
beef with Robin Wright? Where does this stem from? Is this House of Cards or?
No. From her being Jenny. That.
Oh, from Forrest Gump. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
like the most callous, cold-hearted. No matter if Pulp, Forrest Gump stole Pulp's Oscar or not. Yeah, she was a bitch, but that's neither here nor there. This was her introductory role. She had time to grow into that. So Princess Buttercup, or she's just commoner Buttercup. Also Buttercup's a dumb fucking name, but we're in fantasy world.
Okay.
For the record, I like this movie now, but that name is dumb.
Okay. It's actually just listed as the Princess Bride on her character on IMDb.
Yeah, no, her name is Buttercup. I'm like, is this movie sponsored by Reese's? Anyway, Carrie Elwes, Wesley goes away because he doesn't have money for a wedding, and they could just be married. Anyway, he goes away, and it comes away that he's been killed by the Dread Pirate Roberts, and then they fast forward to 5 years, and she's being forced to be married to the prince, because the prince is not going to pick a princess. He's going to marry a commoner.
Lord Farquaad, right?
Yeah, it's basically Lord Farquaad. Yes.
From Shrek.
Yes, I made a Shrek reference. I don't remember which one, but I made Do You Know the Muffin Man? It was the reference I think I made. Do you know the Muffin Man? And then she's out riding her horse. She gets kidnapped by Andre 3000. I mean Andre the Giant. And the man who says inconceivable 9 million times in a 2-second period. Yep. And Inigo Montoya.
Wallace Shawn.
Gideon from Criminal Minds. Most people might know him from now. Okay. But he was much younger and had dark hair instead of short gray hair. And then the Dread Pirate Roberts, and they have the sword fight, and they go back and forth, and who has the better swordsman skills, blah blah blah. And it's a fantasy tales of the guy who loves the girl saving the girl, then the girl tries to save the guy, and then he's being tortured by a machine that takes 50 years off his life. Well, a year off his life, but then it's set to 50 years, and he's dead, but he's not dead. Billy Crystal might have been the best part of that movie in his role as
Miracle Max, huh?
Yeah.
All right, let me give you a little background on my history with Princess Bride. So Princess Bride for me was that movie commonly on a Saturday, you'd kind of be flipping the cable channels, and all of a sudden you see little Fred Savage there listening to a bedtime story. I'm like, oh, what's this all about? And you got Andre the Giant there, and I never really watched it all the way through, just little clips. I'm not sure if I ever did watch it all the way through as a kid, and then it wasn't until a few years ago when they announced it for Criterion. I'm like, oh, perfect excuse to finally watch The Princess Bride. Watch it with my kids, enjoyed it. And I think I enjoyed it even more this time and it mostly stems down to that relationship between the grandson and the grandfather, and the dynamic of him hearing the story. So many good moments. I do really like hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father, prepare to die. Inconceivable. The first time I ever heard that, I was just playing, I think I was playing Spades online, and they're this little I guess when people were like not happy with their cards or whatever, like they had the option to like click this button and play that sound, and then the very charming line "as you wish." But yeah, there's a lot of like as a fantasy movie, there's a lot of little real silly moments in there that kind of drag it down to kind of make it not as perfect as I'd like to be. Probably the only movie that Criterion will ever have that opens up with a full frame of a Nintendo game. Was it like a baseball game, right?
Yeah, he was playing baseball, and he was playing with a joystick and not a controller.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that part.
Yep.
But yeah, as a parent now, I definitely really appreciate this whole premise of like, yeah, the story aspect. And I think it would be kind of an ordinary fairy tale, but I think a lot of like the real savvy humor kind of helps that out quite a bit. And I love that moral of not judging a book by its cover, because as it goes along and like he's thinking, oh, it's not supposed to go that way, Grandpa, it's supposed to go this way. And he's just not used to, taking some twists and turns to get where, eventually we all know it's going to go. Man, the opening of this movie, I love that music and like that shot of them at magic hour, like having like a kiss or whatever. Just, gosh, that's a really, really beautiful scene. Where you want to pick it up from? I mean, you pretty much got through most of the plot already, right?
Yeah. So Wesley, who is now the Dread Pirate Roberts, he's already saved her once, and now she's sacrificed herself to save him. She's going to marry the prince, and they've struck a deal where he's going to send his ships to save him or to give out a letter because she's under the impression he's still alive. He goes down to the torture machine, and it kills him. And then Andre the Giant, so it's physics. This is Andre the Giant, and in Nigio, they find him and they take him to the Miracle Max, which is Billy Crystal, and kind of reminded me of Genie from Aladdin. Like it felt like there were some similar like mannerisms and the way they talked and that kind of stuff.
Carol Kane plays the Miracle Max's wife, and it was kind of interesting to see how much makeup they had up on them. Yeah, I could take or leave his character. I really like Wallace Shawn's character. His whole inconceivable, like, I'm smarter than you thing. With the whole, like, swapping the cups back and forth.
Like, I get that was supposed to be the joke. Like, it really didn't do anything for me. That was actually I thought was one of the weaker parts of the movie for me. I was glad when he was gone. Like, I thought the movie was much better once he was out of the movie. So
I like how Andre the Giant's character and Inigo Montoya, they're like sportsmen. Like, they're just in it for a paycheck. So yeah, they're sportsmen about it, and I really love that scene where they get to the cliffs or whatever, and like it's really fun to see them sliding up the ropes. I don't know what kind of special effect they used to make it. Probably some stuntmen in order to make it seem like they're climbing that fast. But so they get all the way to the top, and they leave Inigo Montoya there, and he's just like getting very impatient that Wesley's, they take away his rope, so Wesley's just kind of scaling up, without the rope. And he's just like, all right, I'm going to lower it down to you. And they're being very gentlemanly about it. And, it's a very kind of a tongue-in-cheek little sword fight they have, which is a lot of fun. I noticed this time how, like, they have, like, the basically the gymnastics bar, and they do the little flips or whatever. And then when they land on the ground, you could tell it's, like, obviously a pad. But, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, they start off and they're both using like their weak hand, and they switch their other hand, and it's just as good. And a lot of fun there. I remember I actually was looking back to my old Letterboxd review, and I was like, the first time I saw this, I just was having the hardest time understanding what Andre the Giant was saying, and so I was just like, maybe the Criterion version will have better sound. No, I like a couple minutes into this, I switched the subtitles just so I could get a better sense of what Andre the Giant was talking about.
Yeah, he does have a pretty thick accent. I actually watched this one all subbed, thankfully. Mm-hmm. So, once they were in the castle, it was kind of cool. Like, I wish the end, like Wesley, there had been like a big sword fight between him and the prince, but him outsmarting him was kind of cool. That was a part of his character, was that he was, really, really intelligent. The thing with,
I do find the castle, most of the castle stuff is very convenient, and other than the Montoya fight, it just, it's kind of anticlimactic.
yeah, I mean, like the six-fingered man, Count Runyon, I think, or something of that nature. He's of course cowardly and dastardly, and hits him with a throwing dagger. But then of course, he pulls it out and he's bleeding and he's real weak, and then all of a sudden he repeats his name, like he repeats his phrase like 7 times or something. And
Would you stop saying that?
yeah, and all of a sudden it's basically like superpowers him to fight him, and then they're like riding away on horses, and I'm like, shouldn't you be like trying to find a doctor? Like, you're bleeding out, man. Like,
It's a fantasy story. He healed up already. It's good to go.
Yeah. He took some medicine or something. Like, he took a healing powder. We're good.
I got better.
It's D&D, right? Like, we're good.
I find it very silly whenever like Wesley as the Dread Pirate Roberts. First of all, like the whole idea of like, he met the Dread Pirate Roberts and like he took over his job and he's gonna pass down his job. Like, I don't know, that part of the story doesn't really do anything for me. And like, I don't know what he's doing. Like he's like talking as if he's the pirate to Buttercup, and she's getting all mad at him, instead where he could just be like, hey, I'm Wesley. But no, it has to be much more of a moment, so they have to build up to it. And you have that ridiculous scene where like they throw, I guess, stunt people down the side of a hill to have a heck of a time rolling down that thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was to see that she still loved him as opposed to loving the prince. But it's like, bruh, you've been gone for 5 years. Like, what do you expect? Even if she did love him as opposed to you, like, you were gone for a long time.
I find some of the monsters, they're like, I guess they're very cheesy, and I guess maybe it's because of it's being a kids film. Maybe they wanted to make it not too scary. Like the whole eel part, like the eels do look pretty legit, but then like it stops midway through, and he's just like, "Oh, Grandpa, I'm scared," but he's like, "Oh, do you want me to stop?" No, keep going. And then it's a pretty cool moment, like whenever the grandpa's trying to figure out exactly where it was, and it kind of like jogs back and forth in the film a little bit, and then all of a sudden Andre just pulls her right back into the boat. But yeah, that's Swamp Rat. You could kind of tell that's a guy in a suit, and that being cheesy as it is drags it down a little bit for me.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I guess it's also, it's meant to not necessarily be for adults, but they're also using some of the stuff I guess they had probably available at the time, and probably also on a budget and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and the end, like I said, it is very convenient, like how he manages to scare the guy into tie him up, and then they escape and they jump out of the window, and it's pretty. I was watching a few of the special features on the Criterion disc, and they actually considered like an alternate ending for the movie where Fred Savage like goes over the window and sees like the characters like outside of his window, and then ride off to like make it seem like it was real for him. But I think the movie ends perfectly. It really pulls it back together by him saying, "Grandpa, can we do it again tomorrow?" And he says, "As you wish," which is just super really charming. So yeah, I had this ranked at 4 stars, and I mean, despite those cheesy, convenient moments, I went up to 4.5 for me. It's a nice classic that I don't have the nostalgia for, but I can see why many people do.
Well, I didn't have a ranking on it. It was one of the ones I had a ranking on, but I'm gonna give it like 3.5.
Okay.
And I didn't rank it on Letterboxd going into it, since we were trying to play secrets going into this one from each other. So
a little bit.
So I'll have to
All
go
right.
back and give it 1.
All right. So Warm, you think after your first watch originally, it would have been more in like the 2-star range, or?
Yeah, probably somewhere in there, like, because I just like really didn't have any actual desire to watch it again. But watching it, having watched a lot more movies and stuff, and not having that this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, blah blah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, coming into movies with expectations can definitely ruin stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, and I'm pretty sure I watched it around that time period where like watching anything where like romance was like the like a big plot of it, and you know it was all, you know, it's super cheesy, and you know there's that point in your life when you're younger sometimes where you just don't appreciate cheese. And
All right, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be back with my pick where we talk about the Three Colors trilogy and what part of it just doesn't rub me the right way. Stay tuned.
Et maintenant,
and we're back on the Average Joe's Movie Club cast talking about movies that we did not like the first time, but we're given another chance to. Now let's move on to my pick, which is essentially, I'll say the Three Colors trilogy, which is Criterion Spines 588 through 590, but I'll pull back on that a little bit because I absolutely love one of these movies. I really like another one, but then yeah, that other one. Anyways, let's get on to it. So, and the fact that this film is a trilogy is probably one of the main parts where my contention lies with the one film. So, Joey, you want to take a shot in the dark? Okay, so let's set this up a little bit. So we have it's 3 films that came out over the course of 2 years from a Polish film director named Krzysztof Kieslowski. Blue is actually the first film I'd ever saw from him, actually the Three Colors trilogy, and I would say I saw it for the first time maybe over the course of a week and a half. So it was pretty close together because I was so intrigued by Blue. The first time I had ever heard of this trilogy, it was actually from our friend Ben back in college. It was when I had first gotten Netflix. And he's just like, hey, I heard about this movie called Red from, I think he said it was a French film at the time or something. And I put it on my queue. I was like, yeah, I'll put it on there. But, you know, did you ever have a Netflix queue back in the day that just kind of got longer and longer and longer and you never ended up getting half the movies you put on there?
I mean, I have one of those now. I mean, my movie queue is
But
between.
I was kind of mostly referring to like back in the disc days where you got a mail to you.
Oh no, I never had Netflix back then. I didn't have Netflix until it was already streamed.
All right, and so yeah, so Blue, White, and Red are the order of these films, and you want to take a shot in the dark and of how I would rank these?
My guess is you probably like Blue the most, and then Red, and then White. Is my guess. And just and I have some reasoning.
Okay.
Just you tend to usually like very arty movies, like artsy, like art house movies, and Blue is definitely the most art housey movie.
Oh yeah, for
White,
sure.
White is the least one. But it's more of a dark comedy, which you also tend to like. You liking a lot of Coen Brothers movies, and it definitely had a little bit of that feel to it. But it was the most straightforward movie. And then Red had a little bit of artsy kind of feel to it. But oddly enough, part of the reason I was kind of debating between White and Red, and the reason that I picked Red was probably the one, not the one, is because Red is the one I liked the most. And usually we are far apart on things. So I went with White.
Okay, interesting. So after I had saw this trilogy, last year, I think it was, he made a miniseries called The Decalogue. And I just wanted to bring this up because these are basically 10 short films representing the 10 points of the 10 Commandments, roughly based. Each one of them, you can kind of tie that into it. And I got a much better sense of what Kieslowski was about. Like Kieslowski, he'll have these movies that are just super stylistic and super emotional and just... It's really just kind of a grind, and into how it makes you feel. And then he has like these dark comedies, and then he just has these other ones that are like a little bit more subtle. So he definitely has a range, and I definitely like his more artsy ones over his more plain ones. And so I would say the Three Colors trilogy kind of really boils down my taste in film to where I do really like super emotional, style-filled movies and dark comedies. And then you have the very, very subtle ones there as well that I'm not such a big fan of. So yeah, let's get into this. So let's start off with my favorite, which you hit it right on the head of Blue. I wasn't expecting a whole lot of this from this movie coming into it the first time, and yeah, I was just blown away. And the fact that it has so much to do with music is what really, really kind of was my hook in. And watching it again and seeing how the music played in with like the character development. Because in a nutshell, what happens in Blue is, first of all, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous movie. And there's so many tie-ins to the fact that it's called Blue. And where red, like a lot of like the red in that movie is like I think I remember a scene where like they're in a bowling alley and there's like a red bowling ball and there's like red chairs and red like a background and red shoes. Like in red it's all like substance stuff, where in Blue it's all like lights, like gels and stuff. Like she's like having these very, very emotional swims in a pool, which I should probably get to why she's so emotional. But yeah, it's the light is kind of where a lot of the blue comes in. There's a lot of material things that are blue as well, but yeah, the light for sure. But so this movie sets up her husband, and her daughter. They're all riding in a car together, and they stop, and you subtly get a little hint of what's going to happen. There's a shot underneath the car, and there's some fluid leaking. I guess it's a brake line, and just a few minutes later, they crash into a tree. So yeah, the woman is played by Juliette Binoche, and I would say that not since Amadeus, which is one of my favorite movies, have I ever seen a movie that so beautifully captures like musical composition within a story and how that process goes. There's this really cool scene towards the end where she's so basically her husband was working on this great European like symphony, and like after he dies, like she really can't avoid like his legacy, because they're all like trying to interview her about if she's going to help like finish the symphony because they're waiting on it. And then there's like a friend of theirs that's working on it, and he gets stuck. And towards the end, when she does start to kind of warm up and accept the fact that, you know, she's going to help, you know, finish her husband's legacy before moving on from him. You know, they talk about like, okay, not such hard percussion, we're going to take that out. And then you hear that play out through the score. By far, one of my favorite moments is like where she's like wants nothing to do with the music, and she like throws it into the back of a dumpster or a garbage truck. And you actually hear like the music kind of like distorting as it like gets like crushed up in this garbage truck. Such really cool stylistic traits in there. But yeah, it's all about like the stages of grief for this woman. Like it starts off where like she's in a hospital and she wants to kill herself, but she can't do that. And then, you know, she goes back to her house and she just has trouble knowing exactly how to feel, how to express her emotion. And like her housekeeper goes up to her and she's like, you know, I'm crying because apparently you can't, and I'm crying for you. And she just wants to get away. Another one of my favorite moments from this is she caves in and sleeps with the other composer guy, which I guess he probably had like a crush on her the whole time. And like after like they spend the night together, like I got the impression that like she was punishing herself for doing that. And what she does is she rubs her fists up against this like stone wall to get it all tore up, to kind of you know, feel something, and to kind of feel you know, kind of, I thought it was more kind of a punishing thing. Gosh, it's such a visual movie that I think the first time I had a little bit of trouble connecting to it, but knowing how it played out, watching it the second time, I definitely, every beat of it, I kind of understood how she was feeling, and I just thought it was just so emotional. What were some of your impressions of Blue?
It was definitely a very emotional movie. I thought the name definitely fit, not just with how much blue stuff was throughout the movie, whether it was the light chime thing that she kept, or her swimming in the pool so much, but also just she was very cold a lot of times throughout the movie, and so blue is a color that represents coldness, but also
or
she
sadness,
was
yeah.
or sadness, which is she was very blue. Like I'm blue, I feel down. She was very blue, but you could see her going through the stages of grief. Now, I've never went through, the stages of grief of losing someone, that
sure.
like a child or a significant other or anything of that nature. But, you could see her going through the stages of, trying to get better and trying to deal with it. And, she tried to escape away from that big life. And then, it was I think it was their manager was the guy that she slept with, who was in fact in love with her. And then, he posts those pictures online, or not online, sorry, that's not in today's time. He does an interview, and those pictures are posted on the television. And
are you talking about whenever she figures out that her husband had a mistress?
Yes, but that's also when she finds out that the other person kept a copy of the music, and that's how it's being.
She has to face it again.
Yeah, the sympathy is still being commissioned for the EU, and he's trying to do it and all that. But then she goes and finds the mistress, and you're like, oh shit, she's gonna beat this girl's ass or something, And then it turns to find out she's actually a really good person, and the mistress is pregnant, very pregnant.
Yeah. Did you happen to catch the tie into White whenever she confronted the mistress for the first time, who it just happens to be that the mistress is either a judge or is about to be a judge?
Yes, I caught that, and I caught all the one tie-in that was in White and in Red, so that tied all of them together, and then the big tie-in at Red. I caught all of that.
Okay, very good.
So yeah,
and
then
yeah. And from listening to the film a little bit more, I heard people refer to the daughter's room as the blue room, which makes a lot of sense. With I guess in a way, she could probably be okay with her husband. It's probably not easy for her to lose her husband, but I think it's really the daughter being gone that's devastating her the most. And the scene that really, really captures that just beautifully. Did you happen to notice that the daughter was playing with this wrapper in the car right before the death scene? And
I mean, I feel like you saying that, yes, but I hadn't remembered that. I just remembered that she took that she walked into the room and ripped that piece of that light, or that I don't think it's a light, but the one girl, the loose woman who became her friend, called it a light, and then she took it and had it in her new apartment. And that was a big thing that they showed a lot and made a thing out of.
And then in the daughter's room, they had the gym mobile, which just looks beautiful. And
that's it. But she called it a light or something. Yeah, the other girl called it a light. But
okay. What I was getting at was, so she has this piece of candy that's wrapped in this this blue wrapper, and she starts peeling it back and furiously eating it, and it kind of got the hint to me that she was grief eating, and it was her taking in this part of her daughter that she was missing so desperately. So I thought that was a very emotional scene as well. Oh, and we talked about the amazing composition of it, and I don't want to spend too much time on Blue because we do have the whole trilogy here. Just definitely cover some of the highlights.
I mean, I thought it was a very well put together movie. My only actual real issue with the movie was the ending sequence, but if you've got anything else you want to hit to before we get there.
I think it's important to note that towards the end they do talk about how she is a very caring woman, although you don't really see that throughout because she is so cold and detached. A part that I've never really connected to is the fact that she visits her mother, and apparently her mother has Alzheimer's disease. And so she's kind of losing her mother in a way too, in addition to her daughter and husband.
Yeah.
And then
her mother calls her by her sister's name and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. and then like they're watching TV, and it's interesting because they're watching like bungee jumping. And if you ever get the Criterion version of this, it's actually, instead of like her on the cover like a lot of the other DVDs do, it's actually a bungee jumper. And so there's definitely a metaphor going there, which I think has to do with the fact that like in this like state of emotion, she's just having to let go. And that's kind of what reminds me of this whole visual essence of a bungee jumper. And I guess what I want to say about that is, yeah, it's like she's letting go. She's jumping out into like the unknown, but she's still connected. And I think the connection probably has a lot to do with like the memory of this loss, where she's jumping out and she's trying to, figure out where her life is. But, it's always going to tie back to that. I thought you had talked about the kind of the prostitute, and what I was getting at with the fact that she's supposed to be this real kind woman is the fact that, she doesn't throw this lady under the bus. She's like, no, she doesn't have to leave or whatever. So she does show some kindness to this person she doesn't know, because, she doesn't have to be mean to her. And, there's a lot more to this movie. I mean, we find out like the prostitute, I guess she's a stripper, right? And there's this whole part about like she doesn't want her dad to see her like at the club.
Yeah, and it was actually like just stripping, or if it was more than stripping. But yeah, like the dude, like the bouncer wouldn't, or the owner wouldn't kick her dad out, was gonna let him watch. Mm-hmm. And yeah, she goes there to help her. She lets her husband's mistress move into their house. Like she was gonna sell the house and decides not to, and it's like, no, y'all can live here, and his son can grow up in his house, and which was a real compassionate thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And then she also, like with the mistress, like she essentially forgives her, and like basically doesn't she like give her like their estate or whatever to live in? So yeah, pretty much sets her up pretty well.
Yeah, gives her the old house that she was trying to sell. Yeah.
And then the other part that really got to me was so she's afraid of mice, and she has mice in this new apartment, and she's able to confront her fear, and she feels really bad doing it because she's unleashing a cat to like eat these baby mice essentially, which is a little dark, but yeah, it's just something she knows she has to do, and she gives into her fear, and she doesn't give into her fear, she overcomes it essentially, and lets that happen. And yeah, I would say that kind of the montage at the end is probably the most cryptic part. When I saw that again, that kind of threw me for a loop again, and it's basically, it kind of recaps like all the characters we've seen. The boy who saw the accident happen, who wants to talk with her about what he saw, but she doesn't give him that release. The mother, and then her making love with the guy, which it appears like it's happening through an aquarium tank, which I mean, any thoughts on it's probably one of the most interesting scenes of the film.
Yeah, I thought that was weird, and that was one of the things like I was talking to Carl about. I was like, this looks really weird. Like obviously you can tell they're having sex, but it is real weird looking. And he's like, well, it's like through a window and it's raining. And I'm like, I definitely think there's water, but so you think it's an aquarium tank? I thought it was that whole part right there was just kind of weird, because it's like, okay, they're boning, but like what's like, okay, but it's just weird. It had the the blue lens and water and. So it was I just thought it was weird. Like, I mean, I don't think it's bad per se. I just thought it was kind of weird.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the metaphor is trying to say that she's underwater, or what the case may be, but it's some kind of release by the fact that, she's getting back together with him because they finished the symphony. Maybe that's a ritual that her and her husband had. So yeah, I've heard some different theories on that. I don't want to steal anybody else's idea for sure, but yeah, it's definitely it's like kind of gives you pause, and then finally we see her and the blues on her face, and she finally begins to cry, and gosh, it's a very emotionally draining movie, and what a way to start off a trilogy with the best one, and goodness. All right, so next, you can hit the nail on the head that for me, blue was the best, and then it was either white or red. and we're gonna talk about White next because I really like White as well. So the next.
Okay.
Okay. So I had mentioned before that I like dark comedies, and it really drives me nuts how much White gets kind of thrown under the bus by a lot of cinephiles. A lot of people in the film community give this one a lot of shit because, and I think it might boil down to the fact that this is a man's story instead of a woman's story, and a lot of the marketing around this trilogy is about the story of women. So, any thoughts on that up front?
I mean,
first of all, did you like good old Carol?
Oh, that bitch Carol.
Oh, goodness.
No, I'm memeing because, that bitch Carol Baskins. But, no, I enjoyed this movie. This one was my second favorite. I assume it's your second favorite as well. But I think we're just in reverse order here completely.
Wow.
So, but I didn't dislike any of them. I like all of them. So.
Oh, very good.
Yes. It's just. He's a very interesting character from how he starts to how it ends, and then
very pathetic to start off with. So Julie Delpy is the woman.
I think he's still pathetic at the end, even. But like not necessarily pathetic, but just shows that no matter how much you change, you can still. No matter how much you change, think you're going to move past. Someone, and this, we see in Blue, it's hard to move past grief, and then this one is hard to move past heartbreak, and no matter what he has done to move past his ex-wife, he still loves her even at the end, and even then when we get to Red, you see that he clearly still loves her, and when we see that tie-in.
So this story in a nutshell is about this hairdresser who's Polish, and he marries this French woman. And in the very beginning of the movie, they're in divorce court, and she is just fed up with him. We're told
and this is where Julie from Blue tries to walk in, and you see her for like half a second.
And so, she says that they can't consummate the marriage. Essentially, he just can't get it up for some reason. For some reason, he's feeling very emasculated in this marriage. And, he desperately asks her to, go to Poland with him. And so he can kind of, sort his thing out, get back to his roots, but she is not having it. She still likes him because there's that scene where they're in his barbershop or his hairdresser salon. And he's like, all right, let's give this another shot. And she climbs up on him, ready to go. And, he just cannot perform once again. And she's pretty frosty. And I was even watching a YouTube video with Julie Delpy talking about this character, and she admits that she's kind of a bitch. And so
she was quite rude.
So essentially, she totally cuts him off financially wise. So he goes to the ATM, no money. He doesn't have his passport, so he can't go back to Poland on his own. And she starts burning down his hair salon to get him in trouble with the cops or whatever. So she's no good. What really got me is there's a scene where he calls her and she's having sex with somebody else, and she's moaning over the phone just to kind of rub his nose into it. And so people who hate on this guy, I think this guy has every right to just be what motivates him to do what he eventually does. I think he's completely justified based on, what she put him through.
Not only does she moan over the phone, she's like, oh, you have perfect timing, and then starts loudly moaning into the phone as he's like, I still love you, Dominique. And then she just continues to get, banged into the heavens, whatever.
And so I find this I really like dark comedy. The scene where he's walking up to the court and he's asking where to go, and all of a sudden the bird shits on his jacket, and that's very clearly White, ties into the title there. Just shows how pathetic this guy is. And then so he's sitting there and he's playing I almost forgot about this part. He's playing this comb little instrument or whatever. Pretty pathetic that he's trying to make a few nickels off of playing a comb. And he meets this one guy, and they work out a deal to where he'll help him get back to Poland by checking in. Basically, Carol is stuffed in a piece of luggage. And so he gets to Poland in the most pathetic way possible, where these guys actually steal the luggage and they dump him out in a basically a landfill, right? And again, we see the white with like the snow on the hill and stuff, and he's just like, oh, I'm home again. Very, very sad sack existence. And so he goes back to his hairdresser's shop, and he's kind of mellowing in self-pity, like his brother, who's a hairdresser as well, is like, hey, you got all these women who really want to get their hair cut by you, and he's just like, no, I just want to lay in bed and just be miserable. And I can definitely relate to just kind of want to lay in bed sometimes. Am I right?
I mean, yeah, and obviously he just had the shit kicked out of him, and probably wasn't feeling super good to start with after he just got back to Poland. So understandable, as he's divorced, he's broke, had the shit beat out of him. He can't find his only friend, Mikolai. So yeah, it's understandable. He probably was depressed for at least a few days.
So so essentially he wants to kind of make something of himself all of a sudden, and so he meets up with this kind of like a shady business guy, I guess. I'm not sure if he's kind of in a gangster or what, but like he hires Carol as like protection.
I think he's in the Polish mafia. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure he's a mobster.
And so, yeah, he hires Carol to be his protection. He gives him a gun. He's like, yeah, just watch out for people outside for me or whatever. And so along the way, like Carol, he like makes it appear like he's asleep in the back of his car, and like his boss and some other guy, like they talk about this big land deal that they're about to do. And so Carol's listening to all this. And so what happens is he goes and he meets up with one of these landowners, and he goes and, he plays nice with them and he buys the land from him, no problem. And then he turns that back on his boss and be like, you want this? You got to play, tenfold for it? And so,
Five times.
Yeah, 5 times for it. And so all of a sudden, yeah, Carol's, he's living large. He's got some money now. And so, yeah, he did some wheeling and dealing, and now he's he has the nice big trench coat and has his hair all slicked back, and yeah, he's doing pretty good for himself. Although you do see he still has some compassion in him. He meets back up with the guy who helped him get to Poland, and we find out that he wants basically somebody to help kill him, right?
Yes.
And so they meet up down in, I think it's the subway, and he puts the gun to his head, and he's like, are you sure you want this? And then he fires a blank. And he's like, are you still sure? And he's like, no, you scared me straight. You showed me the light here. And so, he definitely has some compassion there. But so essentially what happens is he helps him fake his own death, and they sign the papers to make it so like his ex-wife, Julie Delpy's character, will get like a ton of money, once he's dead. And, that got her attention. So she travels this finally gets her all the way out to Poland. He kind of watches as she's like, out at his funeral or whatever. And then she goes back to her hotel room, and he confronts her. And she's like, oh, well, look at you. And I always got the sense of like, since he had really kind of turned his life around, he's feeling very confident about himself. And now, he's back in sorts, and he performs, and they have a great lovemaking session together that even fades to the color white as he climaxes. Yeah, kind of a sexy movie here.
Yeah, I noticed that it also was fading to white as he climaxed, and she moaned very loudly as he alluded to, and I was just like, I see what they did there. That's very clever in many ways. Ha.
And so, but she sees that, the joke's on her. In the morning, he's framed her for his murder, his mysterious death, I guess. And then, yeah, the final scene, he is able to get next to the prison, and he looks up, and he has these little binoculars, which is kind of interesting. And he spots her in the window, and she's doing like this sign language. And basically what she says is, once I get out of prison, you and me, we're going to get married again. It's all going to be good. And, he starts crying because, he's filled with regret that, he took it this far, but, by taking it this far, he finally got her respect back. And there's just something powerful to me about that. It's a man's story. It's about a man's kind of screwing over a girl, but at the same time, I kind of felt like she had it coming, and he kind of turned his life around. So, a lot of people trash this movie, but I found that all very touching.
Well,
in a
I
darkly
don't know.
funny way.
I don't know if I find it touching. Is like it's very dysfunctional, but like
Hmm.
clearly, in movie land they make it work because like clearly she emasculated him and then framed him for arson, and then he frames her for
His
faking his
death, right?
death.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for murder, but faking his death, and then that's how he's able to still walk around, and then he feels terrible about it because he still loves her,
Hmm.
and it's just this like they're very there's a thing in real life if you're like my one of my buddies is like my girl who I was married to and she framed me for arson and then I got her put in jail. Like we're gonna get married when she gets out of jail. You like I would like slap him and be like, dude, just stop. Just stop. That's toxic, brother.
Let it
Like,
go.
nah. Yeah, so but I mean, nah, it was no, I mean, I really like. I enjoyed the movie. There was lots of good stuff in it. And we had fun. When Mikolai, his buddy, looking like fake ass Ian McShane. Is what we called him like the whole movie. So that was good. It was a good movie. It was very enjoyable. So
Awesome. All right, so we're going in reverse order for you. So that's interesting how we're building up to your favorite and we're declining to my least favorite.
yeah,
Which is Red.
which you know what, that makes sense because of course it's the one I like the most and that's the one you like the least. That's on par for us. That's
There
on
you go.
brand.
All right, so it's reached this point. We finally got to Red. So I remember just loving Blue the first time I saw this. I really enjoyed White. Thought it was super quirky, different, and I was so hyped for Red. And because so many people said that was their favorite of the trilogy, I just could not wait to see what this movie was all about. The hype was at its peak. Mm-hmm.
So I want to stop you there.
Okay.
So let's correlate. So you went into this the first time and everyone said it was their favorite, it was the best, blah blah blah. Let's portion back to the part of when I watched Princess Bride. It's the greatest, it's the best. Oh, let's look at what happened. So I'd just like to interject that. Continue.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, expectations can definitely kill things. So yeah, it goes on for about an hour and a half, and and when I was watching it the first time, I was just like, nothing's happening. It's going. Is something going to happen? Okay, they're having another conversation. Ooh, that's a lot of nice, pretty red. Okay. Oh, and then the part. Do you like the big connection at the end?
Okay, so the end I thought. I liked part of the end, and then part of the end I also didn't like, which is what I think kept it. Because I'm assuming you didn't go and look at my review and score that kept this movie from being perfect.
Okay.
Was the end. I loved the tie-in that they did at the end, but also it was like what the fuck was the end? The end was the weakest part of this movie, other than the tie-in.
And I think this might be the first time in the history of the show where we're about to talk about a movie that I really resent and that you really like. So maybe you might warm me up to it. So yeah, I just found this movie so super, super subtle. And I think if it wasn't like hyped up as part of like the best part of one of this trilogy, I might have just been like, it was okay. It was kind of uneventful. But compared to Blue and White, are you serious? It's one of your favorites? So that was always kind of the feeling I had. To start off with some of the... Okay, well, actually, I'm sorry, we're skipping ahead. I kind of wanted to talk about how it's all tied together at the end first. Yeah, I find the whole like boat accident where they pull off all the main characters from the two people from Blue and the two people from White, the couples essentially. I found that very tacked on. So after a very long or short, uneventful movie, they just tack it all together with this boat accident. Yeah, I was just like, really, that was it.
Like, I don't feel that they needed it. Like, not that many people. You'd already had the tie-in with I kept calling her grandma, but the old lady who kept trying to put like the liquor bottle in recycling that was in all three movies that you.
Yeah, I don't remember him. I don't remember her in White, but I definitely remember in the first one, and then the Valentine is the girl from Red who helps her out. I remember that.
Yeah, Valentine helps her, but it's near the beginning, obviously when they're still in France, in White. And Carol like kind of sees someone else struggling or whatever, and he like smirks or something, and he doesn't help her at all, kind of deal. Like when he's coming out of like the train station or something. So yeah, as much as I like a good tie-in, maybe they just needed one other person on the ship or on
like,
the ferry. Like
they could almost have like Valentine and the judge like watching TV, and maybe the symphony's going on or something, or some way to tie it together that way. I don't know. I guess the whole like theme behind Red is about fate, and so yeah, it's the fate of this boat accident. But yeah, let's dive into Red. My main favorite parts of Red, I think the score is absolutely beautiful. Just like in Blue, like that opening scene of her going down a runway or whatever, and the music's cranked up. Awesome. All the Red, like, I mean, of course, like the opening like telephone call where it's showing like the signal go through the line and into the water, and yeah, that's all badass. That's very cool stuff. And yeah,
hello, this is the Matrix. Oh, that's actually what we said when the movie started. Is like, are you the Matrix? So it's very fitting that you picked that to start the show.
Super easy, but super fitting. There you go. Yeah, and I do love all like the shots of like her. I mean, it's on all the promotional material for this movie. Her against the red background, like blowing the bubble gum, and then yeah, just throughout the whole thing is red. Goodness. So this story, so it's about this girl named Valentine, and so she has this like long distance relationship with this guy in England, and she's driving around one night and she hits this dog, and she looks at like the address on this dog, and this takes her to this old man, this old curmudgeon, and he's kind of a grump, and he's like, hey, do you want to like help me fix up your we'll take care of your dog, and he's just like, no, just have it, whatever. And she goes and she patches up the dog. And then I guess she gets some money in the mail, and she goes back, and they come back together. And whenever she brings him back the dog, she sees that he has this whole like not surveillance, but like he has like all his radios tuned to where he can eavesdrop on all his neighbors, because apparently he's a very closed off individual, and in order for him to have touch with the world around him, he must listen to the phone calls of his neighbors. And so they have a conversation.
More he just enjoyed doing it than that's how he had contact. But maybe I missed that. I just took it as he was a very grumpy old man, especially when you find out why he quit being a judge later. And you just kind of like, fuck it, I like doing this, and that was kind of, instead of watching TV, he did that because he enjoyed it. So I guess it was how he got his outside touch instead of television, but he just enjoyed doing it.
And another thing that gets me is like the side characters in this. I mean, they're just so briefly mentioned, and it's very, very subtle with how they are woven in, that it wasn't really until I had read like the Wikipedia like synopsis at the end that I was starting to like reconfirm like all these connections. And this movie is all about human connection, and I didn't feel connected with it. All right, so basically he's like, this is not right. You shouldn't be eavesdropping on your neighbors. And so he's like, all right, well, if you want to do something about it, you can march right over there and tell them what I'm doing. And she's like, well, okay. And so she goes over there, and she sees that the guy he's eavesdropping on, he's having an affair. I saw on Wikipedia, I'm not sure if it's right. Did it say that he was having a homosexual affair?
I don't know if it says that, but that is, I think, what is going on.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that it was two men on the phone talking about touching each other and such, and then she goes over there, and their young daughter is listening on the phone, and his wife is like super nice and like yeah, my husband's on the phone upstairs, just go talk to him. And I'm like, some random woman just came to your door and wants to talk to your husband, and you're like, yeah, sure, go the fuck upstairs, whatever.
Yeah, she was very welcoming, wasn't she?
Like,
so she loses her gumption to want to do that after she sees that, like, this is like this family probably on the brink because of like this happening. And so essentially this leads to the judge deciding that he wants to write letters to all his neighbors admitting to what he does, and then they all sue him. And then Valentine's, the guy that lives like across the street from Valentine, he's studying to be a judge, and I think he hears the case. And yeah, so that's his connection into it for now. I guess it is probably
he's dating like one of the judge's neighbors.
Yeah, which at first I thought that was kind of what the affair was, but yeah, not exactly. So I guess what Kieslowski was trying to do here was that you have basically the old judge and you have like his younger version, doppelganger kind of thing, because you have the young judge and like there's this whole thing about like he drops a law book or whatever, and whatever page it opens up really helped him with his law exam. And they both have these like are in these relationships where they catch their their lover sleeping with somebody and then their lover dies. So part of the whole like boat accident the yacht the accident at the end is the fact that like all the characters from all these films survived, but like his girlfriend died in like a yacht accident with her lover, I guess. So that's there. Moving right along, Valentine invites the judge to her show, and so he attends and watches her do her thing, and then they have one more talk at the end, and we learn about how the judge he had this person he was in love with and who cheated on him and died, and then he felt like he could never love again. And I guess because his relationship with Valentine, he loves her as a daughter, and so now he's found love again.
I'm not gonna lie, I definitely thought that when he was mentioning something about having emotions or feelings, like I definitely was like, is this old man about to come on to like this really young girl?
Yeah,
like
more, is it the word platonic?
Yeah, is he about to? And then he didn't, and then he tells the story of he ended up judging the case of
a sailor, right?
Yeah, the sailor. It was his ex-girlfriend or his deceased girlfriend's lover, the one she was cheating with or whatever, and
he was doing something wrong, but he let him off the hook.
No, he convicted him.
Or was it? I thought he
No, he convicted him, a completely legal conviction. It was like a construction foreman or something, and like.
But originally, didn't he let him off the hook with the first one?
No, the first guy was a sailor, and then he let him go, and it was like one of his first cases or something, and he then over the years was like, nah, that guy was probably guilty, but he ended up having
that's
family.
What I was thinking of. Go ahead.
Yeah. But yeah, then that guy, he should have taken a different case, gave him a different judge, but he didn't, and then convicted him, and then asked for early retirement, and that was, yeah. The interaction between the judge and Valentin was what I liked so much, in this movie. And then how by the end, like the last time, like one of the last time you see her talk to her boyfriend is. She basically tells him, like, she hangs up on him, and then, she still ended up going to England to see him. But, she's like, she had grown at least a little bit where she wasn't just letting him walk all over her, but she was, still going to go see him. But so the boat, the whole thing with the boat was kind of just kind of a downer part of the movie.
And if you read the Wikipedia thing, it mentions like the young judge's dog a lot. Like I think whoever wrote this was like really into like this dog connection throughout, because apparently the younger judge like he leaves his dog tied up to a post at one point, which I saw, but like it didn't sink in, and then later on he has the dog on the boat, and so okay. I like animals, but there's some people that really, really love their dogs, and I think a lot of the people that love this movie might have the dog connection.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things like you just don't. I like dogs. I don't have any animals. I'm not real keen. I can barely take care of myself most of the time, so I'm not real keen on like taking care of someone else's animal or my own animal. Yeah. So like, but if I had one, I'm not gonna tie it on a rope, tie it on its leash to a light pole in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
traffic. That's kind of fucked up. And
Mm-hmm.
so he went back and got his dog, and then you see the dog on the ferry. And I kind of thought that the young judge, having had his woman cheat on him, and then they put Valentine, they had kind of teased them. They had been around each other the whole movie, but never together. I was like, oh, they're gonna introduce the two of them, and she's gonna go break up with her boyfriend or something, and they're gonna end up together, and then the fucking yacht. They don't explain why. It's a mysterious crash. We don't know
Yeah,
what
some
happened.
bad weather or something. I
It's
think
the
they show some like lightning, forehand
it's
thunder,
it's the Titanic. We don't know, whatever. And then
iceberg.
you know, yeah, she lives and he lives, and then for some reason Carol and his wife
Mm-hmm.
and Julie and I guess the manager guy. They were all on
I
the
think
yacht. And it's,
oh, and a bartender too. I think I read or something. So
Yeah. So clearly she's gotten out of prison. They got remarried. So
mm-hmm.
there you go. There's your real ending to White.
Yep,
And I guess they moved back to France, or at least they're on vacation trying to go to England or something. And then, like, all
something.
right. Yeah. It isn't like,
It's just kind of there. It's very, like I said, I think it's tacked on. I mean, I think if I would have loved Red, I thought it'd been like, oh, neat, they're all there. But
I mean, I like that, at some point in the universe, all the characters in the movies were in the same place at the same time. Like, I
mm-hmm.
thought that was really cool, but it was like, oh, it'd have been cool to like. I mean, the movie is at an hour and like 38 minutes. We can get a scene where
Maybe they could all
you
take a
showed
group
them.
photo at the end.
You could have showed them getting on the boat. You could have been like
Hmm.
there could have been if you knew you were going to do this. Like there's a scene in White, where they're talking about while they were still together, like in a flashback, because you flash back to the wedding. Oh, well, we were going to go to England for our honeymoon or something, and then that's why they're on the ship. I don't know, something small, but whatever. It's them being there together wasn't the thing that bothered me. It was the fact that it was like it's all these, they're talking, and she's going to get the dog, get one of Rita's puppies, and then the
Mm-hmm.
fucking boat crashes, and there's nothing. That's the end. The boat crashes. The boat crashes. The end. That's the end of the
Yeah.
trilogy.
He
Whereas
just
you, like
he
you
just
had
kind of the old judge is kind of just smiling at the screen at I guess her having a less because I get
her
the
not dying probably.
well, the final shot mirrors the shot where she's taking with the photographer, where the photographer's asking her to be sad, and then the final shot, I
Yeah.
guess she's not as sad. um, I think it just bugs me that a lot of people, a lot of cinephiles consider this like Kieslowski's last big statement, and to me, it's just so slow and subtle that I find it underwhelming. Like I said, if this was a film on its own, I think it'd just be okay. He has another very similar film called The Double Life of Veronique, which is about a doppelganger, which I think is much better. It actually, surprisingly, the lady who plays Valentine is the Veronique girl in that movie. And if you read my letterbox review on that, I actually say like, shouldn't this have been like Three Colors Part 4, green or whatever, because there's a lot of green in that movie by chance. So I guess the first time I was watching this, I don't recall really remembering the fact that there's this whole like mirrored character between the old judge and the new judge, which I guess I caught on to a little bit more now. And it's mostly just I just resent the movie. I mean, people talk about it being so warm and their favorite, but I just find the emotional impact of Blue just so much more of my speed. And I mean, I can understand where you're getting at with your opinion on it. I attempt to rate it at a 2.5, but I have too much respect for Kieslowski. I'll keep it at a 3 for this one. I don't think we rated White.
We didn't rate any of them actually.
Okay, so this is a good time to go through this. So my ratings: Blue. I used to have that at a 4.5. It's a 5 now. It's a masterpiece. I used to have White at a 3.5. I think I'm debating between 4 and 4.5 for white. I really like white. I don't see much flaw in that. And then again, red is still a 3 at me because I respect the director way too much to put my hate with the score. So
I went 4, 4, 4.5.
okay, that's fair. So yeah, so you didn't, like you said, you felt pretty similarly. It's like, so you didn't hate blue, but you just liked red a little better.
Yeah, I liked all of them. I thought all of them were really good movies. I just liked red. I think the most out of all of them. And I liked white a little bit more than blue. But
Okay.
I think I enjoyed all of them. And it's like as I talked about blue and thought about it more, like I liked it more. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like you had someone like told you about it, and you've been in movie circles and stuff longer than I have.
Mm-hmm.
Like I only knew about the Three Colors trilogy. I had seen somewhere maybe on Letterboxd or one of like the first movie groups I was in say something about it, but I really didn't know anything about it. Like I had heard of it just through that, and one of the times I was in Barnes and Noble like looking for movies on the Criterion sale, like I picked it up and I went, oh, okay, this is the Three Colors. This is the Colors movies I've seen people reviewing. And I read the back of it and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then, I went and bought a bunch of samurai movies and stuff. So, but maybe it'll be, it's on the channel, which is how I watched it. But
Yeah.
I mean, they're really good. It'd probably be one I would definitely not have any issue picking up and owning at some point because they're really good. And Valentine was she was playing a model, and for a very good reason. She was very pretty. Dominique was very pretty in her movie, and then
Binoche.
Julie, yeah, she was very pretty. I mean, they have very pretty women, very pretty cinematography, and different things in all the movies. They're just very well put together.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick it up next sale. My only reservation, again, I've gone on and on that I'm not a big fan of red, but blue more than makes up for it. And maybe I can see maybe red growing on me over time, but it hasn't done there yet. A few fun facts that every people who talk about this movie or this trilogy mention. Okay, so Juliette Binoche was actually slated. Steven Spielberg wanted her in Jurassic Park, but she took the role in blue over that. So that's a nice fun fact.
She gonna be in Laura Dern's role?
I think that's what I heard. I'm not sure. I have to do a little bit more research. I think that's what was the case. And then the other fun fact is, so Red went up against Pulp Fiction in the Cannes Film Festival.
And lost.
Well, Pulp Fiction won.
Well, yeah, I was saying, no, yeah, Red lost.
Deservingly so. I think I hear some cinephiles say that they wish Red would have Kieślowski Krasowski's final film winning the Cannes Film Festival would have been a glorious send off, but I think Tarantino's original slam dunk, I like it in that spot a little better.
Yes, I do too, especially seeing as that bitch Jenny Robin Wright. And
they
took the Oscar. Yeah, they stole his Oscar. So
yeah, that was so funny that you mentioned that earlier, and I was like, I'm gonna bring up that Pulp Fiction later. So
yeah,
it all comes together.
I saw that. Like I was looking up just to determine for sure if he had gotten away with, or if they had blamed her for in white, if they had blamed her for
his death,
his death, or faking a death and faking a will, or if they knew he was still dead or they knew he was alive, and whatever, it didn't really matter. I just came across that same fact that it had lost the Cannes Film Festival. So
yeah, I think blue won the festival it went to. I think it might have been Venice, and I think white won like the Berlin Film Festival, and then they put red in Cannes, and it lost out to Bad Motherfucker.
I mean, hey, so it's hard to compete against a bad motherfucker. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we're two Tarantino guys talking about a Kieślowski film, but I mean that really. The more I think about like our show premise of being the Average Joe's Movie Club cast, like I mean, we didn't go to film school. We just love movies. And like, I can study movies all I want, but at the end of the day, all I know about movies is what I've watched movies. And so I'm giving my opinion on that. And so, I mean, I do some reading, but we're no experts. So we just give it to you how we see it.
Yeah, for sure. And like you definitely do more of that than I do, and you definitely like I think you've seen twice as many because like I think I'm at like 1362, and you're at like around 2800. So I mean, and as we definitely discuss is like where you try to watch a movie a day. Sometimes I go a week where I only watch one movie or two because I play video games or do other things. So but I definitely love movies, and I'm excited to hopefully eclipse 1400. Like I said, I've got the countdown for it and everything, so I'm like a list made for that. So I'm excited to hit that. Hopefully this year. So
nice. So we do have a theme coming up for next week, and you don't know what it is, which is really exciting. Yeah. And so our theme for next episode is we're going to jump the fence, and we're going to talk about one of our favorite films.
Oh, sweet. All right. All right. So what you got? Or you want me to tell mine?
I kind of want to do a little bit of a game. Like, let's see if we can do a little bit of guessing. I'm going to take a shot in the dark. And are we going to talk about Mean Girls?
Ooh, that, I actually watched that not that long ago earlier this year. So, no, we're not going to do Mean Girls, but you're not far off. It is more of a comedy. I flip-flopped this movie a few times around before settling on what I did settle with. When I first made this list though, it was a 90s like action shoot 'em up movie starring Keanu and Patrick Swayze.
Oh, we're gonna watch Point Break.
But I did switch it off because at the time I had a bunch of like shoot 'em up action movies on the list, which has kind of changed because another movie's changed, and so it's the list looks a little bit different. It's Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Oh, okay. I think I still have that on DVD or on Blu-ray. I think
I have it on DVD and Blu-ray because anybody who knows me knows I love Mila Kunis and I love Kristen Bell, and it has both of those lovely ladies in it. So, yeah.
I remember saying that. Yeah, Russell Brand, right?
Russell Brand and Jason Segel from How I Met Your Mother. So they're both in there. And then what's the guy from Moneyball and Superbad and
Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill, that's the guy. Yeah, he's in it. Yeah, there's tons of people in it. It's
yeah, if we played 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon in here, we would just go down miserably. Or the Leonard Maltin movie game.
We could describe the movies that they're in, but like right now the names are really bad. All right. Oh man, one of your favorites. Brother, I don't know. I was really, part of me was, let's do some voodoo. Let's do that hoodoo that you do. Inglourious Bastards.
No, not a QT. But I know we're not supposed to talk about it. But we're going to talk about some Fight Club.
All right. Okay. We're going to have some really good juxtaposition again, kind of like we did on this episode. So that's.
Are you not a fan?
Oh no. I'm in between the movies. No, I like Fight Club quite a lot.
Okay. I know I've been throwing a lot of artsy stuff at you, so I think I'm going to get back to my roots. And I don't think I've heard any review online of Fight Club where people actually say what's positive about it. They just go on and on about how it has toxic masculinity, and that's not the reason I like it at all. And I have a really deep history with this movie, and I need my voice on the internet to talk about why Fight Club is not this evil movie that a lot of people say it is. Film bro. Wow.
I'm really excited, so we can fucking throw that shit in the ground, and we can talk about what it's actually about, which is anti-toxic masculinity. I'm fucking excited. Although we can't talk about it, but we'll talk about it.
Everybody on Letterboxd who, gosh darn, said their review is like, oh, I can't talk about it. I'm like, you can, and we will. So
yeah, we will forget to not we'll forget about Fight Club next week or 2 weeks or some amalgamation of time. Yeah.
All right. So thanks so much, everyone that's following the show. If you want to join the movie club cast, just make sure to hit that subscribe button. Get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. Did we get the Three Colors trilogy totally wrong? Did we not love up to Princess Bride quite enough? Let us know.
Yeah, if you want to, send me some hate mail, rip my head off. I'm pretty sure my baby mama, she was very much looking forward to this episode to see what I thought about Princess Bride. And how you can do that, much like my friend Ian, he just sent me a direct message. So if you know us, you can do that. If you don't, you can go post on our Facebook page, or there's a button right there on that Facebook page that will email us, or you can email us straight at theaveragejoesmovieclubcast@gmail.com.
So Joey, why do we do this show?
Because we love talking about movies. Good
night,
night, everyone.
everybody.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
The moment if I had feeling, zero to something. I think this just might be my masterpiece.